Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is this week's Fireside Chat Podcast, December 20th, 2020. Glad to be here with you. Probably many of you have been thinking, all right, Richard hasn't really produced a whole lot this week. And that is true. I posted a note to the website yesterday, talking a little bit about why, basically. I did have a couple of things going on. I was at a History Channel shoot in Ithaca, New York during the middle of the week. And that, as I think I mentioned, gave me a nice opportunity to see a great old friend of mine, Peter Robbins. Probably many of you remember or knew or know Peter through his work. Some of you have probably met him. He's a wonderful human being and a great friend to me. So that was very nice. But the main reason I just have not been able to produce anything, honestly, all that worthwhile, is that I've been dealing with my mother, who is not well, and we're at a point now. I mean, she's had COVID. She's officially, I think we're told, in a post-COVID situation, but she's not better. Things have gone from bad to worse. For a while, it was like a roller coaster where she would get better and then seemingly get better and then just plummet. So she's had a high fever, or normal to high fever, for most of the last month or more. That's pretty much every day now. That's bad, but the main things is that she's really been unable to eat much more than a few hundred calories a day. So she's been on close to a starvation diet. She just can't keep food down. But the worst thing is that she just can't get oxygen. Her oxygen levels have plummeted. So this is really my sister, Nancy, primarily. They're in Erie, Pennsylvania. And Nancy is a nurse, and she's been able to provide a lot of very, very important care. So she's been taking our mom back and forth to the local hospital. But now my mother's at the hospital, and there is no expectation that she's going to leave that hospital alive. Her situation just seems to be getting worse and worse. She cannot function without ongoing oxygen, not the normal kind of oxygen. I can't understand all of it. I'm not a medical professional, but it's a much more involved method of oxygen delivery, and she just can't come up. When she would even leave her bed briefly to try to use a bathroom, even right next to the bed, her oxygen would plummet so dramatically, it would be frightening. So it's been very, very difficult for her. And she has gotten to the point where she wants it all to end. Actually, when I think back, my mother always had this attitude. She talked about this for years and years. She said, well, if I'm ever ill, if I'm ever able to, survive on my own for an extended period of time, if I need some kind of support, I don't want it. She's talked about this for years and years, and that's her attitude to this day. She didn't want any unusual measures, and I think she doesn't want them now. She's in a great deal of pain. Most of you, I'm sure, many of you have gone through the death of a loved one, and you know exactly what I'm talking about here. There's no easy way for someone to die, or usually not an easy way. So we've started her on morphine. That actually started yesterday, small amounts, not a large amount. Basically to ease her pain, make her breathing a little bit less troublesome. I talked with her yesterday, and she said, you know what I really want is a chocolate float like when I was a girl. And so they got her one. I'm told she enjoyed it. So that's good. When I'm done recording this, I will be driving to see her in Erie, Pennsylvania. I'm looking out of the window. It's snowing. Should be okay. I'm going to go see her. I'll probably stay over at Nancy's place for a day or two, and we'll see what's going on. it's weird because my sister and I were talking about like death things, like, well, can you help me do mom's obituary? And I'm like, okay. And my mother wants, they're talking about a memorial video. And I said I could probably put that together. And my mother wants 2 songs for that video. Blue Suede Shoes and Jingle Bell Rock. Nancy said, what? You want those songs? What's wrong with you? My mother said, those are the songs. She grew up in the 50s. She loves those songs. So we will do what she wants. We're still kind of hoping for a miracle. It's maybe not impossible, but everything that we've been learning and everything that my mother's feeling, there's just not a lot of hope right now. So I guess we're preparing for the worst and hoping that the worst does not happen. But so I will just say that well, she was the best mother I could have hoped for. She was funny, loving. She was always there. And well, I was thinking, well, I wasn't expecting this to be this difficult, so thanks. But we all have relationships in this world with people we love that become difficult. I didn't really have that with my mother, fortunately. We had a very good relationship. But a lot of times, you have a sibling or a spouse or a parent or a child, and things become filled with anger or pain, resentment. We express them through anger, but they're actually hurt. They're actually pain. Sometimes they're jealousy. Sometimes, the thing is, we're all desperate for love from those people we love, and when we don't get, when things don't go the way we want them to, we get angry. But of course, that anger is really only masking pain. That's 99% of it, I think. That's all it is. We feel hurt, and it's easier for us to feel angry than to experience that loneliness or the rejection that we're actually feeling. And usually that's what the other person is experiencing some way too. So we often forget that. And it's not that you may not have a justification for your feelings. Maybe you do, but also maybe you don't, or at least to the extent that you think you do. And the same could be for the other person, whether that's a parent or a child or a sibling or a cousin or an old friend. I'll only just say this. I'm not going to advise you on how to live your life, but I do believe it's always better to reconcile your differences. Because, usually the end comes unexpectedly. Sometimes not. Sometimes someone's sick for a long time. And my dad was an example of that. But even then, with my father, the end came rather quickly. 2 years ago, I spoke with him on the phone the day he died. And even though he sounded very bad, I didn't think he would die that day. It's always, or I guess usually, much quicker than you expect. There's a scene in Tolstoy's War and Peace where there's 2 characters who hated each other, and they end up dying together in a field hospital tent later in the story. And over the few days in which they're both dying, they realize that each had a beautiful, painful, frightened part of their psyche that the other didn't know about. They forgave each other and they bonded, and then they died. It was something that brought home the truth that our differences usually are based on small things that we make into big things at the time. And when you stand back with some perspective, you see that we're all really living our own private little world, in our little world, and we often in a selfish, egoistic way, in which we're the stars of our own movie script. But in fact, we're really no more or less important than anyone else. I do think we benefit from trying to resolve those fights that we have with the people we love. And it doesn't mean that we have to like the things they do or even enjoy their company all the time. But what we can do is recognize the humanity of the other person and do our best, just do our best to express our feelings as best we can. And, expressing our feelings is a vulnerability and it's a strength. It's both, It's hard to do for many of us. By telling someone, for instance, that you love them, you're putting yourself in a potentially vulnerable position. They may not say the same back to you, or if you've been fighting with someone, it might seem to you that you're giving up the argument or admitting you've lost in some way. I'm not going to be the one to apologize first, that sort of thing. But let me say this. How much does it really matter who says sorry first? In the big picture, does it really matter? Especially when the end result is that you can maybe fix something that was broken. The thing is, when the end comes, we will all want some resolution to those bad situations that we usually carry around with us. So that's my advice, for what it's worth. Fix those relationships that need fixing. I don't think you'll ever regret that. Even if you got to suck it up, swallow your pride, and apologize to that person, or even better, recognize the beauty in that person and your love for that person, and let them know. We all have stories in our lives. Some of us live the story of an unresolved difference that makes its way to someone's grave. And when that person is gone, you will never have that opportunity again to tell them how you feel. And we all know, like, when that doesn't happen, it's not only bad for that person, but it's bad for you. You carry that around in the form of guilt, sometimes in the form of anger or denial of some sort. And that's not our best version of ourselves. So it's one of the things about death, it's a weird thing in my life. I've, for reasons that I should explore more, but the idea of mortality has always been a very present thing in my life. I've always been very aware of my own mortality. I don't think it's morbid. I think it's just been something, a perspective that I have always had that at its best has helped me to gain some perspective on the big picture and on relationships in general, and on the desire for me not to waste time on petty things or silly things or stupid things. That doesn't always work. I've wasted a lot of my time on things that in retrospect are petty and silly and not worth of my time. But I think with the perspective of, we all come into this world, we all live a certain amount of time, and then we're gone. And wherever we go, whether it's the final end, the curtain closes forever and it's just darkness, or if there's something beyond, it doesn't negate the importance of this life that we're living here now. What we do here matters. The relationships we develop matter. And the kindness we give to ourselves matters as well. I mean, the thing is, you can go through your life feeling guilty about all kinds of things you've done. And I find that the most important thing you can do is to seek to understand. Forgiveness can't really come without understanding first. And that means forgiving other people, and it does also mean forgiving yourself for things that you have done that have caused hurt to other people, and we've all done it. Everyone's done it. And I think what is definitely true is that the hardest person to forgive often can be ourselves. And it's worthwhile to ask ourselves what that means and why that is. Maybe it's not true of everybody, but I think it's probably true of a lot of us. We're more inclined to forgive other people than ourselves for the things we've done. But it all comes through understanding and self-reflection and recognizing, here it is. We don't want to forgive ourselves because we may not want to recognize the harm we have caused. Maybe that's it. We don't want to fully confront often the pain that we have left behind us. We don't want to admit that we've caused that pain. And so therefore we don't want to look at it. We don't want to have that understanding. And therefore we don't have to get to the point of self-forgiveness because we're not at the point of confrontation with our actions and our self-reflection. And therefore we don't get to the point of self-forgiveness. So that is why self-forgiveness is so difficult. I think that's got to be it. But forgiving others as well is very important, because forgiving others means we have to recognize that they have hurt us. We have to recognize that we've had vulnerability, that we have, and the vulnerability is caused by insecurity and is caused by fear, obviously. And so for us to forgive the other person means that we're going to have to recognize that we've got our own insecurities and vulnerabilities and fears and all of that, which we don't want to admit to ourselves, right? Because we're strong adults and we're supposed to be independent and all of that. But, honestly, for those of you who are a lot younger and you've not maybe gone through some of the real tragedies of life that are waiting for everybody, we don't want to, we're not ready to recognize our vulnerabilities. But I can tell you, here I am on the shy side of 60, and I don't think those insecurities ever truly at a certain level go away. You can deal with them and you can make yourself into a stronger person in a lot of ways, but there's usually a remnant, or sometimes more than a remnant, sometimes a large area of pain and vulnerability that we all carry with us. And it's that which causes us to react in anger when something happens to us that we think shouldn't happen. And again, we experience the anger because we'd rather do anger than fear or vulnerability. That's really all that it is. So I guess what I would say is life is short. It's shorter than you think. And the end for most of us comes rather unexpectedly. So we can do our best, at least with those around us, with our immediate family, our loved ones, to not make it worse. Let's try to make it better. It's the holiday season. We're 5 days from Christmas, and this is a time of no matter how you celebrate this or how you're celebrating it this year, it is a time of family and of talking to those we love and sharing the things that are really important in this life. This is a website that deals with a lot of out there subjects. We talk about UFOs and we talk about politics and we talk about futurism and artificial intelligence and the way the world is going. And but ultimately, none of those things matter if we have a life inside that's empty. If our humanity is itself damaged, or if our humanity is not what we know it can be. And so despite this difficult time that we are experiencing, that I'm experiencing, that Tracy's experiencing, that my children and my sisters and cousins are experiencing, because my cousins love my mother very much as well. And it's hard for all of us. It's especially hard for my mom's husband, my stepdad, Glenn. Gosh, talked with him on the phone last week, and it was not easy. He's having such a rough time. But despite all of that, it's the holiday season, and I would like all of us to, and I know a lot of you are dealing with tragedy as well. I'm not the only one. We're not the only ones here. But there's always much to be grateful for. Always. And I was talking with my mom just yesterday. You know what she wanted to talk about? All of her wonderful years that she's had, particularly after her diagnosis with chronic lymphocytic leukemia almost 27 years ago. When she got that diagnosis, she was younger than I am now, and the doctor indicated that they didn't expect her to make it much more than 5 years. And she was really amazing. I think I've mentioned this story before, but her blood counts got worse and worse over the next few years, according to a normal standard progression of leukemia. And she was watching an episode of Donahue on TV, Phil Donahue, remember? And on that show, they were talking about a form of creative visualization as a way to improve your health. And my mother thought, well, I'm a nurse. I'm going to visualize giving myself chemotherapy. And she began a daily regimen of meditation. She would lie down on her bed or sit in a chair or whatever she needed to do, and she would visualize in detail the act of giving herself chemo. And then she would see the chemicals go through her body and defeat the cancer cells and all of that. An hour every day. A few months later, she went back to the doctor. They were expecting fully to give her chemo at that time. And the doctor said, oh, your blood counts are a little bit better. Okay, we'll hold off on the chemo this month. Well, come back to me next time and we'll look it over. She continued, and actually what ended up happening is that her blood counts gradually over the next couple of years got lower and lower, the white blood cell counts, which was the thing that you look for with this. And to the point where her white blood cell counts were basically normal. The doctors couldn't really understand why this happened, but they said, well, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, and great. Well, that was over 2 decades ago. During that time, she did the kind of thing that a lot of people wanted to do. She and Glenn went on vacation after vacation after vacation. They traveled around the country. They went around the world. They saw a lot of beautiful things. And when I was talking with her yesterday, she just went on about all the wonderful places. I reminded her of some of them. And that made her happy. For a while, she collected the, when you're traveling, all the souvenir plates, little dishes. And in her old basement, which was kind of finished off, small but nice, the walls were filled with all of those plates and little spoons and the knickknacks that you get when you travel. That was like her thing. They're very proud of it. We had a lot of good memories being with my mother. Hopefully, again, there's a chance that this is still premature, where maybe she'll make a miraculous recovery. But I will just say that the plan is for her to come off of her. This is up to the hospitals as well. They have to agree to this, and we don't really know what's going to happen. But there's every likelihood that this will be her last week. That's the way she sees it. That's the way apparently the medical people around her are hinting at it. They're trying to be diplomatic. So that is why I've recorded this a little early. I'm going to be on the road shortly, and I will certainly keep everyone posted on how things work out. And that's about all I've got for you right now. I do, at some point soon, I'll be able to return to my normal, put my normal thinking cap on and come back with all of the things that we're used to having on this website. This is something that is always important to me, but I'm sure you can all understand it's difficult right now. So I appreciate many of you have sent personal letters to Tracy and me, and we're very grateful for that. I want to thank everyone who's put us in their thoughts and prayers during this time. So I will be back soon. I will be back this week, I can assure you. You guys have become like family to us as well. And to me personally, I just want you all to know that you've been more important than you probably realize on an emotional level to both Tracy and myself. So we would like to thank you, and I want to thank you. I will be back soon, and I'll be here for updates of all sorts, whether personal and relating to the world and relating to the subjects that we are interested in pursuing. There was a lot that was going on this week that I actually wanted to go over and talk with you, and I just wasn't able to get my head into the game. So I think if you just give me a little bit of time, we'll come back and we'll be on our plan. Meanwhile, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas. Honestly, as difficult as these times are, there's always much to be grateful for. And, oh yeah, when I was with Peter, we lit some Hanukkah candles. That was also very beautiful. I hadn't done a Hanukkah ceremony before, and that was very nice. So if you celebrate Hanukkah, if you're Jewish, happy Hanukkah to you. And whatever your faith may be, I wish you the very best during this holiday season. Catch you next time. Thanks for listening to this.